Idaho, because we have elections in Idaho. We don't know what other counties and other states do, so we're going to be specific what we do here in Idaho and Kootenai County. So, with that, we all know how often can you fill in an absentee request form? Once a year, right? Every year you have to fill out, if you want an absentee ballot, you have to sign up. It's not automatic every year. And with that, when an absentee request comes in, it could come on online. And when you fill out your absentee request online, you're already a registered voter. You're giving your first, last name, full birth date, your driver's license, Idaho driver's license or ID card, and then the last 4 digits of your social security number. So that information has to be entered for us to get an online absentee request in our office. Now you can also come in through a paper application, which you're going to sign for an absentee ballot, and you can have your residential address and you can have an address for mailing. So you will see when you get an absentee list, a lot of candidates will see that candidates will request, or no, voters will request the ability to have their ballot mailed to another location besides the residential address. So, I don't know how many people I can get over here, but I'm going to be the example. I've requested my absentee ballot. We're going to show you our state system. So, with that, has anyone gotten an absentee ballot this year so far? All right. I want to show you the specific return envelope we have, okay? This is a very specific return envelope. If something else comes in, we know that's on our envelope, okay? There is a barcode and their address and the type of ballot they've requested. We're going to scan in that barcode. It's going to pull up to see did they request an absentee ballot, and then we're going to verify it to receive it in the system if the signature matches. So she's going to enter my code. I've given her the access to do that. Okay, so this is going to be scanned in, this barcode.
Which is just the voter ID along with the election code.
Yes, and see, do you see my signature on here? I'm going to verify, they're going to verify that the signature matches on this envelope. If it doesn't, then we have to notify the voter. Actually, have a second person check it too, but we notify the voter that the signature is not matched. They have to come in and match it with typically their voter ID or their driver's license. They're verified to say who they are and sign in front of us, okay?
Can I ask a question? When you verify, is that electronically? Is that some
It's
special?
this is a state system. They own it. It's 10x. So we verify all our voter registration information is uploaded for our county into the state system. So when you come in with a paper registration card, we're scanning that in, and that is a signature on there when they pull that up when they're receiving the absentee.
What I'm asking then is you lose control of it once you send it to the
We
state.
physically verify the absentee ballots when they come back against the signature on file, and we can see the entire scanned card image if need be in the system. So we can see that exact reg card, that paper reg card we scanned in ourselves. We can see that entire image, not just the signature if we need to, and it's not an electronic comparison of the signature to the ballot. A staff member physically, who is trained on signature verification every year, physically verifies the matching of the signatures.
That was my question. Thank you.
All right. You got any other questions on absentees and return? So, yes.
I'll leave it up so when you guys.
Yeah, you can see my information.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say,
I think she should be a doctor, her handwriting.
I know, I have 4 children. Lots of diaper changing, so.
And as you make your way back through here, please.
I do have one more question, Jennifer.
Sure.
There are 2 addresses. There's the physical address and then the mailing address. How do we know that that person is qualified to vote?
Because they have registered with the residential address. So there are snowbirds that say, hey, I want to live in Arizona in the wintertime, but they are claiming, they claim to live here. They will have an absentee with their residential address they'll fill out, and they'll say, please mail it to this. Now, one thing we have in our envelopes is we do not forward absentees to another address. So it's returned back to our office. If someone has the wrong address, it's not going to be forwarded on to another address that they did not fill out for mailing address.
How many do you get each election, and how long does it take to hand verify every signature?
It depends. This year it's slow, surprisingly so. I think we're at 2,600 absentees that we sent out. About a week and a half ago was our first drop. But there are times last year, I think we had, 6,000 or so in May. So we expect likely 5,000 to 6,000 for this primary that we'll send out for absentees. And some people on election day, the ability to go to the polls if they have not voted their absentee, and we know in our system live did they return their absentee? We're gonna catch that right away. If they have not returned their absentee, they basically void their absentee and they can vote right then on election day. So we have that happen on election day.
Jennifer, what happens if I were to request an absentee vote, get an absentee ballot, and then, you know what, I'm gonna go down and vote in person. And then, my wife or somebody says, oh, there's an absentee ballot here, I'm gonna mail it. So I voted in person and now you get an absentee ballot. And what happens then?
Well, there is a barcode in the back of this that's scanned in. And if you try to send something in again, or like you said right there, it's gonna say the person's already voted, and it will not allow us to receive it in the system. And on election day, it will say in the poll book, this person's already voted. And so we've had, some people do forget that they voted, and we'll say, sorry, you've already voted. And they can't vote on election day because they've already returned their absentee, and we know it.
Can I say something? I'm a judge, and I actually had 2 people come in last time in November on voting day, and they asked to vote. And they were in the system as having returned their absentee ballots. And I said, you're not allowed to vote. And they said, well, we changed our mind. We turned in our ballots, and then we learned new information, so we want to vote again. And I said, I'm sorry, your ballot has already been counted. You cannot vote again. So people do that sometimes. So I recommended they wait a little time next time. But it was already there. It told me, the computer, when they checked in their poll books, my poll book, that said, already voted, absentee ballot received. That means it had gone through the system. They'd verified their signature and logged it in. So they were not allowed to vote twice.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
How does Kootenai County get rid of the dead people?
Okay, so that's a good question. So we get a list from the Secretary of State's
How
office.
does Kootenai County get rid of dead people?
So we get a list, it's in statute. Okay. Yes, and here's Tad's here from the Secretary of State's office. We get a list from, is it Health and Welfare, correct? From your, and then your office sends it to us, and we remove it. Essentially, at the end of the month, we'll have a list of people we need to remove here. We do it here at the
Is that
county.
each month?
Each month,
Each month.
yes. And then every 4 years, if they haven't voted,
If they haven't voted, actually we do this every 2 years. Anyone who has not voted within a 4-year period after the general election is purged from the system for not having participated in an election in 4 years. Should someone want to re-register, they have the ability to go through the registration process again, show proof of residency, all of the normal steps that anyone has to take to register. But that happens after every general election. So we'll have that happen again in January to March of 2023. It'll happen again in 2025 and so on. That's part of state law. We also do, the state also puts into the system Department of Corrections information so that we catch people who are convicted of felonies and remove them from the voter rolls as well. In addition to what Jennifer already talked about with the deceased list that we get monthly.
And one more question. This hasn't happened to me in Kootenai County, but I've had friends in other places who they've gone to vote and been told, no, you've already voted. And they haven't.
I can't tell you what other counties are doing.
But I'm just asking, would that ever happen in Kootenai
Well,
County?
if there is a situation, we tell them to call our office directly and we'll research it even further. But I mean, I don't know what state or what county
yeah, I
that
wasn't trying
happens,
to
so.
get those-
But they can call our office if there's any concerns on election day, and we get plenty of phone calls on election day. Yes?
As was just mentioned a minute ago on the absentees, if someone's turned in an absentee ballot, or if an absentee ballot has been turned in, okay? Leaving both of those possibilities as different. If an absentee ballot has been turned in, that voter would be rejected on election day, or whenever, even if they were to show up for early voting, as having already voted. So it's very possible and plausible and likely that that will happen in Kootenai County, yes. Most of the time, that is because the person doesn't remember that they sent in an absentee. I mean, we do follow up on those things because that's kind of a red flag, especially if the person says, I don't remember voting.
Yeah.
Many of those end up being resolved by, we still have the envelope, we still know other aspects of it that can be looked into, as Jennifer just mentioned. They'll look at it and they'll realize, oh, it was an elderly person, they voted absentee, they voted very early absentee because they had the ballot on request already. So they got it 45 days in advance, they voted maybe 35 days in advance, and then the next 30 days they forgot that it was that election. So they show up to the polls on election day and they'll say, I didn't vote. But when you do a signature review, and this is consistent across all the counties, when they come back and they say, you requested that, and here's your turned in envelope, and we have both of those pieces of paper, they'll look at it and they go, well, how'd they get my signature so correct? Okay.
Yes.
Quick question. Where does, and who makes the paper for the official ballot?
We use the company K&H out of Tacoma, Washington. And with that paper, it's 80 pound, and we put a watermark on it. And then the most important thing is when we're creating an election with ES&S, they have a coding on the ballot. And you can't go in there and try to replicate it in that sense. It has a certain measurement of what the optical scan is going to show on there. But it's an 80-pound paper and it has a watermarking on it.
Jennifer.
And then we know the,
I was just gonna say, Jim wants to keep trying to keep
Okay.
the group moving. We
and
can
we know how
continue
many
to do Q&A
absentees
as we
we're
go.
accepting each day when we go to open them. So we have on 5/1, we received 200. We're gonna open that day and run that as 200 through the machine. We're gonna make sure we're on count each day for early voting and absentee. And then we also do that in election night.